So what's the deal with the sharing economy? Apps like Uber and Airbnb. Are they really this amazing force for progress, connecting us all in new ways? Or are they creating a whole new mess of problems we're just now starting to get our heads around? All right, let's dive in and figure this out.
So on one side, you have the promise, right? This vision of a world built on community and connection, where anybody can make a little extra cash. But for a lot of folks, the reality has been, well, pretty different. It's brought noise, a real sense of insecurity, and even pushed long-term residents right out of their own neighborhoods.
To really get a feel for this clash, let's talk about a real story. Meet Lucy. Now, she was all for the sharing economy, at first. But that all changed when a bunch of apartments in her building basically turned into full-time Airbnbs, bringing the whole gig economy right to her front door.
And what Lucy saw was like a domino effect of problems. First, it was the obvious stuff. Constant noise from tourists, trash piling up. But then, it got more serious. She watched neighbors, people she actually knew, get forced out by rising rents. Then a local bed and breakfast, a family business, just couldn't compete and had to shut its doors. And on top of all that, she found out her neighbor John, who drives for Uber, has zero job security. No benefits, nothing. It wasn't just one little issue, it was this whole web of problems.
And this one moment, wow, it just captures the daily chaos perfectly. I mean, picture it. It is midnight. You've got tourists literally yelling outside because their Airbnb host just forgot they were coming. There's no front desk, no manager to call. This is where that smooth, shiny app smacks right into the messy real world.
So when you live through something like that, you end up asking some pretty big questions. When this new way of doing things creates all these new problems, who's supposed to fix them? Whose job is it to write the rules?
Well, according to the experts, the answer usually falls into two big categories. You've got regulation from the government, and then you have the companies trying to regulate themselves. So let's break down what those two paths actually look like.
Okay, so governments have a few different tools in their toolbox. The most extreme one, they can just avoid the issue altogether by banning a service. Done. A slightly softer approach is to limit how big it can get, like putting a cap on how many nights a place can be rented out. But the most hands-on approach is to guide these companies, using things like taxes, licenses, and creating new protections for all those gig workers.
Now, these big platforms, they aren't just sitting around waiting for the government to act. A lot of the time, they try to regulate themselves, partly to avoid even tougher rules coming down from above. So they'll do things like run background checks to restrict access, or require hosts to have insurance to define operations. And of course, they monitor behavior with review systems to try and weed out the bad actors. Things like Airbnb's superhost status, that's self-regulation in action, trying to reward the good guys.
So we're all busy trying to put these little fires out, right? Talking about regulations and new rules. But what if we're totally missing the forest for the trees here? What if all this noise, this job insecurity, all these fights, what if they're not the real story? What if they're just the symptoms of a massive economic shift, the kind that only happens once a century?
There's this economist, Jeremy Rifkin, and he argues that the sharing economy isn't just a new kind of app. He says it's the very beginning of a third industrial revolution. We're talking about a change to our economic DNA that's as big as the invention of the steam engine or the rise of the automobile.
And if you look at history, there's a pattern. These huge economic revolutions don't just happen because of one single invention. Nope, they happen when three key technologies all come together at the same time. A new way to communicate, a new source of energy, and a new way to move things around. And for the 21st century, that magic combination is the internet, renewable energy, and automated logistics.
The whole system that powered the 20th century, that second industrial revolution, is just becoming too expensive and inefficient to keep going. Rifkin points to this one moment, July 2008, when oil hit $147 a barrel. He says that wasn't just a price spike, it was an economic earthquake. The old system was literally breaking under the strain, and the huge financial crisis that followed, that was the aftershock.
The engine that's driving this new revolution is a really powerful idea called zero marginal cost. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It just means that once you pay the upfront cost for something, like building the internet or putting up a solar panel, the cost of making one more of that thing, whether it's another copy of a song or another kilowatt of energy, is basically zero. It costs almost nothing.
And here's a perfect example to make this real. Back in 1978, if you wanted to generate 1 single watt of power from a solar panel, it would have cost you $78. It was super expensive, a niche thing.
Fast forward to today, that same exact watt of solar power, it costs 50 cents. I mean, that drop is just staggering. Energy itself is on a path to becoming nearly free to produce and share, and that just flips the old economic model completely on its head.
So, if our communication, our energy, and our logistics are all getting cheaper and cheaper, heading towards almost zero cost, what does that future actually look like? Well, it brings us right back to the sharing economy, but on a scale we can barely imagine.
To really get the potential here, just think about this. One study found that if we have a fully smart, connected transportation system, think car sharing mixed with driverless vehicles, we could get rid of 80% of the cars on our roads today. 80%. Just think about all that freed up space, the drop in pollution, the money saved. It's huge.
And the full vision goes way beyond just cars. We're talking about an Internet of Things, where basically every device is connected, where our buildings become mini power plants, producing and sharing their own green energy. It's a world where the cost of moving stuff around just plummets, and where we all kind of live in two economies at the same time. The regular capitalist market we know, and this new collaborative sharing commons.
And this is what brings us right back to Lucy and her noisy neighbors. You see, the friction she's feeling, it isn't just a small annoyance. It's a battle for the soul of this new economy. The messy, disruptive reality we see today is crashing into this huge, utopian vision of tomorrow. This future isn't a sure thing, and it leaves us with the biggest question of all. As this new world is being built, right now, who gets to write the rules?